This started towards the end of the last season. So if you are a loyal viewer of the show, the ramp feels very natural. We introduced this element that there was this sort of nefarious corporation called AstroCorp who had its kind of eye on and its sort of talons into people like Jake, and we introduced the idea that there were others like Jake, and that maybe they were in some sort of danger. And at the very end of the season, Jake leads his father, Kiefer Sutherland, to the west coast of the United States, all the way to the edge of Santa Monica, and we realize that he's brought him there because he wants to find this girl Amelia, who we had introduced as a mysterious. And so we pick right up with that, and the danger that involves is that they are now, first of all, at the end of last season, Kiefer took his son and ran. So he's in a bit of, he's literally, in a sense, a fugitive. In so much that a father taking a kid that is his kid and running is a fugitive. So he's looking over his shoulder a bit, and then this sort of evil corporation, AstroCorp, and then we're introducing another tangent of someone who is actually trying to do harm to people like Jake, and all those things are converging. And I think the natural sense of the show just wanted to create higher stakes. It felt like it was moving in that direction, and it's a very interesting thing making a show, because as much as you try to tell it what you want it to be, I know that sounds odd, because we do write it and produce it. It does tell you what it wants to be if you listen to it. You start realizing that there are things that work for a reason, things that the audience engages with for a reason, and you're in my position. You're sort of like a heat-seeking missile. You want to go where that heat seems to be. The reason why we tried to create a show that had a standalone quality at first was because the network felt that it was that there was always going to be new viewers that come on board, especially in the first 6 or so episodes. They had sort of research that talked about how there was so much sampling going on of any new show that each week you could expect to have more and more viewers. And so by wrapping it up into a neat bow, it would mean that people didn't feel that they were alienated for not watching the week before. So what we did was we very slowly started to introduce a serialized story underneath that, so that by about 6 episodes into the first season, those nagging questions were keeping you coming back a little bit. There were still stories that wrapped up in the per episode, but for the most part, these nagging questions that were sort of series questions as opposed to episode questions. The episode questions would get wrapped up, but the series questions or the season-long arc questions would start sort of elevating. So that by the season finale, which we did a 2-part season finale, that was almost entirely sort of a serialized engine. And then when we started this season, the second season, which airs on February 8th, we hit the ground almost with an episode that is basically the third part of a three-parter. And you're really very much thrown right back into a story that you kind of needed to have watched. And I think what's happened is I don't feel as much obligation to the audience knowing things as I used to, because I think there are ways now for a real audience to find out. You can always go online and watch episodes from before. You can go on to chat rooms and to web, fan sites and find out things. In a way, it's up to the audience a little bit to catch up. But more importantly, even though we're still a broadcast model that has to air once a week, the truth is the modern way of looking and watching television for so many people is to watch outside of that model, and to watch it whether they download it or buy a DVD or rent it on iTunes or stream it live, or stream it on Netflix. And because of that, those questions of backstory and all of that are not really that relevant to them. They're watching it in a weekend or over 2 weeks. And so we're now making the story, I think, more for that kind of modern form of viewing. We launched it off of the season finale, and yes, and it was just the smallest little tangent off of the show, just enough to sort of have a tie-in. It was 50 minutes of content, and it was it was about 10 minutes, so 9 to 10 minutes a piece. You know, in a way, it was very similar to writing a pilot for a regular television, and we approached it that way. It had it had like 5 acts, yeah, same kind of idea, and we approached it that way in the filmmaking as well. We shot it like a pilot. We used my crew from Touch. They all literally just the next week just all started working on this. The director was a director that had shot an episode of Touch, and so we just kind of migrated it all to that, which was really unique because of the size and scale for the internet. It very much had the production values of a big broadcast television show.